Now, unlike in Sonic's story, alongside with Shadow's story, that basically though is that with those two stories is that once you're done with that specific stage, obviously we're about to go back into Soliana, so just in case we can able to do the last few bits. Well, in Journey Informs within Silver's story though, something tells me we're about to go and jump right into the final stage in his story.
Wait. There's still a way to change this. If we return to an earlier point in time, we'll be able to save her.
I understand.
Chaos Control!
Silver! I can handle this myself. Besides, you got somewhere to go, right? You! I'll make sure to change Elise's fate. And that, in turn, should change your future, too. Thank you, Silver.
Yeah, just save her.
I almost assumed that Silver's gonna help out Sonic alongside with Blaze, but instead they're about to be going on to a different location.
I know how to save our world now. We don't have to change the past. I'm sure of it.
So you have a plan? Well then let's hurry. I sense his flames.
And so, we finally made our way to the final stage in Silver's story, which appears to be, oh no, it's Flame Core once again, except the fact that it's gonna make things a lot more interesting, to say the least. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Mexi here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog, or most people call it Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 for the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to able to take care of the forms of not only one, but 4 town missions during the forms of the actual specific progression in Journey Forms within Silver Story, and as a result, no matter what though, we did somehow manage to able to take care of protect Anna because she knows the secret, and on top of that, much like the Forms within Sonic's story, we did somehow manage to able to take care of 3 trials of Soliana. And all in all to me though, those trials are ridiculously easy in my opinion. I mean sure, the second one might be a bit confusing at first, mainly because you have to figure out the correct answer before you're able to progress. But apart from those side of things though, I did those trials no problem. And in addition to that, we also did manage to able to went into the longest stage in the game, which appears to be Kingdom Valley, and overall I did that stage okay enough as it is. So, and also it's pretty nice that we can able to play as Sonic once again, except the fact that it only lasted for about a couple of seconds worth noting for, just because obviously we have to still take control of Silver again. So yeah, you probably get the idea for this point. So anyway, today for this video, as you can definitely tell, is about the fact that we're about to be going on to the final stage in Silver's story. And as a result, we're going on to Flame Core. And oh boy, I am not looking forward to going back onto Flame Core after the events of Sonic's story, alongside with Shadow's story. Although thankfully though, is about the fact that, as you can tell, in the beginning portion of Silver's story version of Flame Core, starts off a little bit differently this time around, because rather than just trying to able to go for loop-de-loops or anything, so instead about the fact that it just takes us into like a shorter version of that specific beginning portion of that particular stage. And in addition to that, something tells me is about the fact that on the ending portion of this particular stage as Silver, the ending portion might ended up a little bit more differently this time around. So because of that though, you see what I mean if we able to actually go into the forms of the second segment in Journey Forms of Flame Core. Even though it's a shame about the fact that at this point in time, I don't think it's possible we can able to play as Blaze the Cat anymore, just because, well, it wasn't until whenever we decided able to show off the entire DLC lineup for Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 at some point. But once we get to next week though, then I can pretty much guarantee for saying this is about the fact that we'll show off the entire DLC for Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, just to see how the actual content has to offer. So either way. So yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today is about the fact that yes indeed, is that today's date, of course, here is the 20th of March today, in some cases in 2024 today, and relatively speaking though, is about the fact that yes, happy 4th anniversary of the game's release for the Nintendo Switch, which appears to be Animal Crossing New Horizons, in some cases a much more better game than he falls of how it does it for that miserable Wii U game back in 2015, which appears to be Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, just because it heavily utilizes the Amiibo a lot during that game. Whilst thankfully for Animal Crossing New Horizons, thankfully it did somehow ditch the forms of the party game board aspect, because obviously nobody likes that particular game, which is of course Amiibo Festival. So we fully appreciate about the fact that, you know, Animal Crossing New Horizons was actually is the second most popular Nintendo Switch game out there, next to the forms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, and of course Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because of DLC and everything. So because of that though, yeah, not much else to say about that I guess, although apart from the fact that it's been 4 years ago since the most unfortunate news back in the day in Journey Forms of this miserable year we've ever experienced, which is of course, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's been 4 years since the actual COVID pandemic exists, Journey Forms within the UK country, so I'm probably not going to think about that ever again. Just because, I will have to admit it though, 2024 actually contains the brighter side of things when it comes to the forms of future plans to, like, you know, have some bit of potential, at least as far as I'm aware. So generally speaking though, it's about the fact that at least it's almost going to normality. Well, there might be a couple of times though we still have to watch out for it though. Well, that might be besides the point. So anyway, so there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, unfortunately though, it's about the fact that we've only got about exactly 19 days to go until the Wii U and 3DS online services is about to shut down. That reminds me is about the fact that recently I found out in the article, thanks to the forms of my Nintendo News website, they did somehow point things out in regards to the forms of Super Mario Maker for the Wii U. Basically, they did address about the fact that there is one in particular level that is basically unbeatable at this point, and as a result, we've only got about 19 days to go until the online services for the Wii U and 3DS is shutting down. So this means about the fact that we must hurry up before it's too late, because otherwise though, it will be inaccessible when it comes to able to experience online capabilities during the forms of Super Mario Maker. Although, the good thing about the forms of Super Mario Maker though, is that you can still able to actually use amiibos when it comes to able to only trying to able to go into edit mode. But here's the thing though, is that ever since in 2021, unfortunately though, you can no longer create levels in Super Mario Maker 1 although you can still do it from the likes of in Super Mario Maker 2, alongside with the forms of maybe the 3DS game or something. Well, it has been a very long time since I actually have last played Super Mario Maker, not only for the Wii U, but also on the 3DS as well. Although aside from the fact that I remember back in Journey Forms of been almost 5 years ago, that I somehow created one of those levels called Super Mario Maker 2 is Coming onto the Nintendo Switch. Well, mind you, I haven't exactly called it that, I just named it Super Mario Maker 2 is Coming level, because obviously it's able to celebrate the game's release on the Nintendo Switch. So, that was Journey Forms of in 2019, and my goodness, that was actually kind of a cool level I've made, even though the hardest aspect about the forms of the, the level editor mode is just trying to able to give it a name and trying to figure out the forms of the original level layout as far as creation goes. That's my only hardest thing about going back onto Super Mario Maker nowadays, for me anyway. Not just by the forms of in the first game on the Wii U, and say applies with the 3DS as well, but also with Super Mario Maker 2 sometimes, is that every time, whenever I was trying to able to make certain levels, sometimes though, I got to think of something a little bit more differently and new, rather than just trying to able to rehash the forms of the exact same level design from any other parts and stuff like that. So, anyway, so as you can see, we're about to be going somewhere different for a change, because normally in Sonic Story as well as Shadow Story, we always attempt to able to go into like the top right corner of the specific dark room. So instead, we're about to be going into a different way, which is filled to the brim with not only enemy encounters, as well as certain boxes that you can able to utilize with as projectiles, and sometimes though, it's about the fact that we have to able to try to like go from platform to platform basically. So because of that though, and I still really despise the faceless Iblis worms, just because no matter what though, why does the Iblis worm have to make this small brown dust cloud if they managed to able to like, why couldn't you just make the actual sound effects like a roar, or just, you know what I'm saying, because obviously those Iblis worm enemies are so inconsistent when it comes to the forms of specific enemy placements or anything else like that. So because of that though, thankfully just like in Sonic Story as well as Shadow Story though, Flame Core still only retains 2 loading screens admittedly though. So because of that though, nothing different from there when it comes to like loading times and all that stuff. So that seems to be the case. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and just use this so we can able to activate the moving platform so we can able to progress. Although you can still able to use these glowing stones if you wanted to, but I found it's a little bit unreliable for me, mainly because it actually drains the actual meter. So because of that though, and something's worth noting for, yeah, unfortunately though, we can't play as Blaze for now, just because no matter what though, unlike in Sonic Story, where basically at one form or another, that we did somehow manage to play as Knuckles at one point, in one of those sections in particular, whilst in Journey Forms of in Shadow Story, that basically we did somehow play as Rouge at one point. So I don't think it's possible this time around though in Silver Story, because obviously we're going to be playing as Silver the whole way through for this entire stage. So because of that though, it's a shame with the forms of Blaze the Cat that she can't be playable on this stage, sadly, just because no matter what though, I will say is about the fact that I will have to admit it though right away. In terms of plot significance when it comes to Blaze the Cat's existence, she's probably is the most worthless characters in this game story-wise, and it makes me even wonder decided able to bring in her was. I mean, sure enough though, it's about the fact that she doesn't do anything in the story, just like the forms of another specific character, which then again, I'll discuss more about it until whenever we get to the forms of, let's just say, either DLC or the last episode story. So because of that though, I will say it's about the fact that this entire stage wasn't too lengthy, even though sometimes it can be felt a bit lengthy sometimes, mainly because of the amount of enemies we have to deal with right here. So, oh, looks like the ending portion seems a lot more different this time. So basically though, it's about the fact that we have to able to make our way towards that specific giant ball, and basically though, it's about the fact that every time when if you do manage to hide yourselves into these little, you know, those little things right there, as you can see, this strange ball object can sometimes activate a shockwave. So because of that though, we always have to watch out with that, because otherwise, if you get in contact with that attack, obviously you will lose rings, or if you don't have rings with you, you die automatically. So because of that though, yeah, it's definitely a lot more tricky to avoid, I'll admit it though right away. Specifically about the fact that there is no time limit indication, because obviously I just really wish if it does have the actual audio cue for able to let us know if that particular shockwave attack exists, because otherwise it'll make the entire experience a lot easier. So either way though, so let's just go ahead and try to able to make our way for this point. Although I would have liked able to try to able to just, well, activate any other platform here and there, but I'm just gonna have to like hop onto the spring here, and oh no, there goes all my rings. Oh wait, there's the spring. Oh wait, that was a close call, because if I ended up dying on this point, then obviously my S rank run will be ruined by that time. Especially noticeable whenever I first got to this point on the Xbox 360 version, I will admit it though right away that I have no idea what the heck I was about to be doing. So either way, once you do manage to able to destroy this weird ball object, obviously I've heard that particular sound effect, which obviously brings us into yet another Soliana silver medal, which that does not mean anything for me. So instead we'll make our way to this point, and there's our gold ring right there. So, oh wait, it only took me about approximately 11 minutes, so yeah, that does seem still it's very lengthy even to this point, especially that unlike in Sonic Story as well as Shadow Story, that those stages in those two stories are very short, depending on the forms, if you do care about the forms of trying to skip over a whole bunch of enemy encounters as far as I'm aware. So anyway, that pretty much takes care of the forms of Flame Core, thank goodness for that. So this will pretty much leads us to the final boss in Silver Story, and as a result, we're about to finish up with the forms of Iblis once and for all.
Come on, Iblis! This time I'll finally stop you!
And as it turns out, it's about the fact that this particular incarnation of Iblis is actually contains its different form. Because this is to be more accurate though, it appears to be Iblis Phase 3. Because obviously we've already taken care of Phase 1 since the beginning portion of Silver Story, and we've already did manage to take care of Phase 2 for twice, which appears to be one of them for Sonic and the other for Shadow. So now we're about to take care of the forms of Iblis Phase 3. Now, out of all the actual Iblis boss fights, I'll admit it though right away, this one is by far the hardest of the bunch. I don't know what it is though, it's mainly because of this gimmick that it does manage to bring us into. Like for instance, is about the fact that you guys even know about the fact that the entire battle itself plays very identical to the forms of how it does it for Phase 1, except the fact that obviously if you couldn't tell, that he now just steps back away from the background, so you have to wait until when he decides to able to come closer to you, although you can still able to pick up stuff thanks to the forms of psychokinesis, like for instance with all these lava rocks and stuff like that, so that way you can able to toss these objects right back into its face, so that pretty much deals the damage. And however though, the biggest difference is this time around though, is that this entire battle plays like a time limit of any sort, mainly because the reason why I point things out is because at one point, as soon as when he gets closer to us, basically though is about the fact that he does this very devastating attack, not only once, but 3 times. So basically, the longer you waste your time on this boss fight though, something will happen if you do manage to able to if you're not managed able to become fast enough when it comes to dealing with Iblis Phase 3. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, as you can tell, he now decides to able to pull off this particular shockwave attack, which sometimes you can either be higher or lower, depending on the forms that have specific formation that he was trying to able to pull ourselves into. So yeah, as soon as we get closer to us, as you can see, he decides to able to, well, crumble the actual or smash the entire arena, which means about the fact that, as you can tell, the actual arena itself is actually going to get a lot smaller. So, yeah, it's definitely a little bit trickier than the forms of how it does it on the previous 2 face encounters for the sake of the forms of Iblis himself. Although I will still say it's about the fact that Iblis Phase 2 is rather annoying. So, but anyways, as soon as you're able to try to utilize this little marker thing right there, obviously you will able to do some more damage to Iblis Phase 3. So, yeah. Basically, as far as I'm aware, this entire battle plays pretty similar to Phase 1, except I will still say it's actually a lot harder than the forms of how it does it for Phase 1. So, although it still is a waiting game sometimes, just like in the forms of Iblis Phase 2, just because you have to wait until when he gets exactly close to you. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that sometimes this boss battle can be pretty slow sometimes. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to address something about this as well, on the subject for this point, is that, potentially speaking of, is about the fact that recently, what I've noticed, is about the fact that it looks like that certain games out there, to be more specifically, with the forms of Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes for the Nintendo GameCube, alongside with the forms of Monster Hunter for the PlayStation 2, and even especially noticeable with the forms of 7 Samurai 20XX, and also Battlefield 3rd Main, and also the original Far Cry, and even, let's just say, Final Fantasy 11, for the PlayStation 2 version on the American version, and even with the forms of Unreal Tournament 2004, and even Counter-Strike Condition Zero, that some of these games, as I mentioned this earlier, they are basically became 20 recently. So because of that though, yeah, happy 20th anniversary of the game's release for the sake of the forms of not only the original Monster Hunter, but also with any other games as well, like I mentioned earlier. So, anyways though, so that's as far as we can able to talk about this as far as I'm aware. So anyways, let's go ahead and just deal with this. And as soon as you do realize about something, he does have this another attack about the fact that he will able to bring up at some point, but for now, let's just go ahead and deal some bit of damage as soon as we're able to keep on tossing some more lava rocks as far as I'm aware. And I get the horrible feeling about the fact that, although, actually I'll explain more about that as soon as we're able to get to this particular attack. So, yeah, as you can see, Iblis Phase 3 decides to able to bring out this one giant lava rock, and basically though you have to use the psychokinesis on that point and toss it right back at him, and oh, you kidding me? Oh no, this is gonna be bad. So yeah, it feels like we pretty much lost already, mainly because not only he does himself as a little bit of health left, but it's also when it gets to the point where it gets closer to us, I believe the entire battle is pretty much over, just because, well, and I'm pretty sure we might be able to lose one of our lives anyway, just because, well, if he gets closer to us, and if he smashes this particular platform for one final time, that will be an instant death, basically. So because of that, though, this is what happens if you took too long on this fight, and basically, it's all over for us. So, yep, there goes that run, so... And I was so close for that too. I mean, sometimes whenever I first encountered this boss, I will admit it though right away, it is very annoying about the fact that if you think the battle is over, but as it turns out he only got like a little bit of health left, and as a result, I was very annoyed about the fact that that was actually a close call situation. So, oh well, I guess we'll have to try this again anyway, and hopefully we're not gonna miss too many shots when it comes to likely sending back a bunch of lava rocks right back at the forms of Iblis Phase 3, but it still is incredibly hard, I'm not gonna lie. Well, mainly it's because of the forms of my patience, or perhaps even maybe because of hesitation, so I think that might be the latter of both. I'm pretty sure for this point anyway, so... Anyway, let's try this fight again, like I said before, so hopefully we'll manage to able to try and make this a much more of a successful attempt, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, despite the fact that I apologize for my commentary, it's a little bit slightly bare bones sometimes, well, that's just mainly because no matter what, though, is about the fact that at this point in time, we've only got about exactly 2 days left now until Princess Peach Showtime is going to be releasing. So, and for those of you who lived in the UK, I believe we've only got about 8 more days to go until Kung Fu Panda 4 is going to be releasing on the big screen on the UK version. So because of that though, but still, no spoilers for this point please, because obviously I know for a fact that a lot of accounts out there, alongside with the forms of social media pages, always keeps bringing up the forms of a lot of spoiler elements into the plot and everything, that it appears to be a lot of it 24/7, especially noticeable because no matter what though, it just appears more often every time when new films came out to be, so, but I'm still pretty much ignoring the spoilers thankfully, so just in case I don't want to able to let the film get spoiled for me. So anyways, let's just go ahead and try to able to do this part right here. In fact, that reminds me, why can't we just do that for the sake of the phones, that stupid billiard ball puzzle? I mean, that will make it work. Although my guess is about the fact that the developers might try to say, oh, that would be cheating. So because of that though, yeah, I can totally see why about the fact that they basically don't want to let us to grab the forms of this particular numbered ball in Dusty Deserts with the psychokinesis, because we have to rely on the forms of that particular, you know what I'm saying, with the forms of the Silver's pip slap or anything else like that. I could assure you for this point, but still. And I'm pretty sure no matter what though is about the fact that it seems like this entire run, or the second attempt of this this boss fight is actually, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit more better than the first attempt. I think it's probably because of my patience, and as far as I'm aware, so. But yeah, not much else I can say about the forms of Iblis Phase 3. It's just basically the exact same fight as Iblis Phase 1, except the fact that it does manage to take place in the forms within a different environment. Like, for example, Iblis Phase 1 does manage to take place in Crisis City, and in Iblis Phase 2 and 3, they both manage to able to take place in Journey forms within Flame Core. So, except the fact that it seems kind of strange about the fact that Silver is the only one never able to actually encounter Iblis Phase 2. My guess is about the fact that it will not work on him for the sake of trying to able to deal with Iblis Phase 2. So I'm pretty sure about the fact that that's how the fact that Flame Core is considerably Silver's final stage after all, so. Alright, so it's time to deal with this thing right here, and now we can finish him off like so. So there we go, Iblis Phase 3 is basically done, although something tells me about the fact that, unfortunately though, I don't think there's a possibility of a guarantee that we might not get ourselves the best rank after all. Mainly because no matter what though, I just essentially not knowing what I was expecting to be doing, so, or perhaps even maybe because it's time-based or anything else like that. When it comes to like, if you're trying to able to be fast enough, then obviously we will be able to guarantee to get the glorious S rank, but I don't think that's going to be the case or anything else like that, so. Oh well, no big deal. So in some cases we'll take a B, so that's kind of a alright result. So, and with that being said folks, is that we are basically done with not only Iblis Phase 3, but it's also we've pretty much done everything for Silver Story. So once you've completed all 3 stories, you're able to actually unlock the last episode, which pretty much leads us to the grand finale of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. So anyways, let's watch the ending to Silver Story.
Chaos Emeralds, lend me your power. Eternal Sun, the living flame that has been entrusted to the royal family. Fall into slumber with my soul, Iblis, you cursed flames of disaster! No! Why won't it accept me as the vessel? Blaze!
I'll take Iblis. Don't worry. My soul is already alit with flames. I will be accepted. Come on, make it quick. Use your chaos control to stop time. Then seal us into a different dimension.
No! I can't do that to you!
Didn't we already go through this? We agreed to save the world at any price.
about you. You fought alongside me to save the world. You're my friend, right?
You're still so naive. But I've always liked that about you.
Blaze!
Good luck, Silver!
So it looks like that Blaze is no longer going to be with us for the time being, just because no matter what though, she apparently goes into another dimension because she can suddenly do that. And what? Anyway though, so yeah, as I mentioned this before, that pretty much takes care of the Forms of Silver story. So that means all 3 stories have been completed, except the fact that we've only got about 1 more story left. And that's what appears to be taking place in the last story, or specifically, the last episode. So meaning about the fact that we've only got the grand finale coming up. Well, aside from the fact that, as I mentioned this before, we will occasionally show off the entire DLC eventually at some point, likely also for next week and beyond. Well, as far as I'm aware, this game does also have multiplayer, but I'm not exactly sure if I was able to try to show that off. Maybe I'm also able to try to invite, maybe Stuart one day, or perhaps even maybe I can probably just, you know, try to see him eventually. But I do know for one noticeable thing in mind is that obviously he was basically still continue playing through Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and as a result, at the moment right now, he's going to be showing off some extra content of how the Final Mixed version of Kingdom Hearts 2 actually plays out to be in terms of content-wise. Now, I'm not exactly sure about the fact that he might able to continue the story. Well, that'll be a topic for later time. So because of that though, yeah, with that being said though, is about the fact that I will admit it though, I love Silver's theme song, which it appears to be by the forms of the actual theme song is called Dreams of an Absolution. So because of that though, yeah, I will admit it though, that music is actually overall pretty cool. So even then though, pretty cool to listen to me though, although it's a shame about the fact that I've never actually got that on iTunes, aside from the forms of some stage music, ranging from Tropical Jungle, Kingdom Valley, Crisis City, and much more. But that's just the way how I feel about it when it comes to the entire soundtrack lineup I've always attempted to listen to by myself. So, and I will have to admit it though right away, I feel like that Silver story impression, at least as far as I'm aware, it was alright. I mean, it's not the greatest, but like I said before, the best aspect of Silver story, to me anyway, is about the fact that Blaze the Cat as playable character is obviously the best part about the Forms of Silver story. Yeah, that scene right there, the actual lighting effects is non-existent on that specific scene, as you saw right there on this little credit sequence, whilst compared to during the Forms of it, well, as far as I'm aware, that particular scene is basically kind of like the exact same situation as the Forms of the Xbox 360 version, because as far as I did say this before, the Xbox 360 version of that specific scene does not able to actually contain any lighting when Iblis did show up. Whilst compared to the PlayStation 3 version, you might able to realize that the lighting effects does exist on the PlayStation 3 version, so I'm not exactly sure why that's the case. My guess is that it was on a different disc format. Likely, for instance, the Xbox 360 version only runs as like, I don't know, DVD-ROM or something like that, whilst compared to the PlayStation 3 version, as the current version we are still playing through, it runs on Blu-ray. So no matter what though, is about the fact that I honestly have no idea why they come up with the forms of that particular weird graphical oddities when it comes to both versions of the game or something relates to that. Well, aside from the fact that there might be a couple of times though about the fact that, you know, the actual frame rate decides to differ a lot when it comes to forms of the in-game cutscenes and stuff like that. So, but I will admit it though right away, the worst aspect about the Forms of Silver story, to me anyway, is Amy Rose as a playable character, which as a result, I feel like that Amy in this game is a massive step backwards compared to the forms of in Sonic Adventure, including Sonic Heroes as well, just because I really... Oh, in addition to that, even including with the forms of Sonic Frontiers as well, being a part of the Final Horizons DLC update, as you probably already expect, because no matter what though, that usually when it comes to the forms of 3 of those games in particular, both Sonic Adventure, including Sonic Heroes, and even Sonic Frontiers, that I feel like that Amy Rose is actually a lot fun to play as, but also in the forms of in Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, she is no fun, mainly because, you know, like I mentioned this before, the momentum with the double jump is pretty much screwed up, and in addition to that though, her hammer attack is pretty much useless all things considered, and even then though, the movement speed is even a lot more slower, so because of that though, yeah, that is definitely the most embarrassing thing, because, well, poor Amy, because after experiencing 2 games from Sonic Adventure, including Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for its multiplayer department, and on top of that with Sonic Heroes, that she's actually way fun to play as, and then this game happened, which as a result, yeah, it's almost like a sudden difficulty spike, it's almost like the means of a handicap or something like that. But either way, that's besides the point. And of course, just like in Sonic's story, including Shadow's story as well, we will still hear the forms of his world, which as a result, still has a really dang good track, I will admit it though right away. However, as far as I'm aware, is that since we did somehow finish up with Silver Story, I believe that his world song is about to be gone a lot more shorter than the forms of how it does it in not only in Sonic's story, but same place with Shadow's story as well. So, that's as far as I can try to explain about that. So, with that being said, folks, yeah, there's nothing else I can really talk about this, aside from the fact that I've already mentioned about, you know what I'm saying, it's been 4 years ago since Journey Phones this disastrous thing has been happened, because obviously we have to stick around with the phones of going into lockdown, and on top of that, protecting ourselves when it comes to that deadly threat. So, yeah, that's pretty strange while looking back on it though. Whilst, like I said before, it's probably best to not to talk about that anymore, just because it's all in the past, and that's all that really matters. Mainly because no matter what though, like I said before, 2024 and onwards is actually going to get a lot more brighter for the future, especially noticeable with this exciting amount of games I was really looking forward to, and even especially noticeable with the forms of the upcoming Olympic Games, which appears to be, of course, the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, which, as a result, still very excited for that. And on top of all that stuff, though, is about the fact that I'm pretty concerned about the fact that we've only got about exactly 64 days to go until Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on Switch is going to be coming. So I'm still very excited for it, and I'm pretty sure that until when it gets to the point during in April, I will definitely gonna be able to pre-order that, assuming of course if Amazon decides to able to accept the forms of the pre-order bonus items. I was really hoping I can probably get with maybe the paper plane set, just because obviously that's the coolest aspect about the forms of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, either on the original Nintendo GameCube version or the remastered version, or a remake rather, for the Nintendo Switch version. So yeah, that's as far as I can try to able to explain any of those things as far as I'm aware. So yeah. Although, despite the fact that, like we've already established that in the past, that unfortunately though, we've never actually get a chance to experience Animal Crossing New Horizons to ourselves, mainly because, I will admit it though right away, I do kind of prefer playing games likely for platforming, including kart racing, and much more, including RPGs as well, but that's just my bias, I guess. So, with that being said, folks, it's that we got the endings off this point right here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, and that's what appears to be about the fact that we're about to be going on to the final episode, or should I say the last episode, or to be more accurate though, the last story, which pretty much leads us to the true final level in the game, including the final boss as well. So, oh boy, that particular last story is going to be pretty tough though, so I'll see you guys next time. Later, fellas.